On the line with us, one of our best guests, our favorite guest, our good friend, Admiral Ace Lyons. Admiral, welcome to the John Fredericks Show.
Yeah, nice to be back with you and your listeners.
Good morning, Admiral.
Good morning. You're with Colonel Mike and Dr. Michael Scheuer. We just had your good friend Rick Fisher on, right? Before.
Oh, good. Yeah, Rick's a good man.
Yes, and he said you're a great American, and we say that too.
Yeah.
Sir,
What do you want to talk about today?
the peninsula, China, and what they're doing to our president.
Okay.
Admiral, tell us what's going on.
Well, I assume with China you're referring to the North Korean nuclear problem.
Yes.
And let's face facts. There would not be a North Korean nuclear problem without China and Russia providing the wherewithal.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, you know, these 16-wheel tells that the North Koreans use to make their intercontinental ballistic missiles road mobile, they all come from China. So the first thing China could do is withdraw those 16-wheel tells. And that would certainly put a crimp in the North Korean nuclear program. And we have to make it perfectly clear to both Russia and China that we will not tolerate nuclear armed proxies. And I'm referring to North Korea and Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, Iran uses North Korea as its off-site laboratory. And these are the situation there. I considered this latest problem with North Korea is the most serious nuclear threat we've had since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And at that time, we were dealing with rational leaders. And at that, I was deeply involved in that. I got 64 ships underway from the East Coast of the United States. I pulled them out of shipyards if their equipment was still intact. I reloaded the airmen. I gave them verbal orders, head 160, 20 knots. So when President Kennedy sat down to negotiate with the Soviets knew we were prepared to totally take out whatever they had in Cuba. And, of course, one of the things we also gave up in that thing was we withdrew the Jupiter missiles from Turkey. Nonetheless, it worked out well, and we sent our message.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the message is here, Admiral, from the administration. I when we were talking to Dr. Fisher, my feeling here is that the can can't be kicked down the road any longer.
No, there's no road.
Yeah.
In fact, all of this makes absolutely no sense what we're doing. When Tillerson comes out and said we're not after regime change in North Korea, excuse me, that's the wrong message. You have to have regime change if you're ever going to denuclearize the peninsula.
In fact, we would probably prefer to have regime eradication.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and of course, all these, our president is not being served well from a number of quarters, not the least of which is the left, but certainly people that he's put in are not doing the job, and I refer to his national security advisor, Lieutenant General McMaster. McMaster doesn't understand Islam, doesn't understand the threat of the Muslim Brotherhood, and quite frankly, the actions he's taking on the NSC, removing all of those loyal supporters to Trump and replacing them with God knows what, is all the wrong message to send. In fact, why we still have Obama holdovers in key positions throughout the government is mind-boggling to me. Not only that, you have the Muslim Brotherhood, which has penetrated our government agencies for over 50 years. It's as deep or deeper than the communist penetration of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. None of this makes any sense to me. The people he's put in are not supporting the president on the program and the agenda he was elected to perform.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, sir. I think the idea that he did not purge all of Obama's people is a great mistake. Now, there may be civil service laws and other kind of things that I don't know about or don't know enough about, but to let anybody stay there and then to bring in McMaster is another. It just doesn't make any sense. He
turns out to be the greatest Obama holdover. He is the modern-day version of Harry Hopkins.
Yeah, it almost is. It's surprising that he didn't become Secretary of Defense under Obama. You know, he's clearly out of touch, or he's getting paid to be out of touch. One or the other.
Well, it's he came in with an entirely different agenda. And it's not the agenda to support the president.
No, I think that's exactly right. I think that's exactly right, sir.
He has to be removed. And, of course, the other things I find very distressing is the performance of the Department of Justice.
Mm-hmm. Slow motion.
It's what's gone on there is just unbelievable. And I got to say, Senator Sessions has been a disappointment in the way he's carried out his responsibilities there. And again, we still have Obama holdovers running the Department of Justice.
Yeah, and
absolutely no sense.
And they've put in charge of investigating Wasserman Schultz, her brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, you got to be brain dead.
You got to be, sir. You couldn't make this stuff up. It's unbelievable to me. And
let me say, there's Bill Brimmel, who was the NSA Director of Technology, which has done a complete analysis of the so-called hacking of the DNC by the Russians. He has concluded unequivocally that this was done not by the Russians, but an inside job, because you cannot hack and download all the information that they had. It had to be done on a disk. Mm-hmm. And this blows up the whole left-wing Democratic Party nonsense of how the Russians were trying to influence our election.
Yeah.
Yet nobody has called him in to testify. The Mueller thing would go away in a heartbeat.
Well, the president's going to have to man up here, I think, sir. He's going to have to.
He's got to take charge.
Yep.
But there are people that want to help him. We can't get to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. This wall that's been put around him. And the same way, he has to have a midnight massacre and clean house and bring in the people, the professionals who will support him and support what's in the best interest of the country.
I think that's right, sir. I also think that the president needs to appear more often talking to the American people. These rallies are great. They're very impressive, but there's no continuity. And I think he's got to be able to have demand access or arrange access. There's any number of internet channels he could go on whenever he wanted to. But I think he's got to take the message directly to the American people because he needs their support.
Yep. Well, because he's not going to get it through the mainstream media.
No, they should be broadcasting from prison.
The other thing, Admiral, this is Colonel Mike. The other thing is we should just stop PBS and NPR overnight. It's a 24/7, we pay for killing Trump channel. It's
well,
24/7.
Same way with the mainstream, Washington Post. Whatever page you pick up on, it's anti-Trump, anti-Trump. They have the whole team dedicated to his destruction.
Well, but we're paying for NPR and PBS. The American taxpayer are paying for it. There's not one conservative view on any public channel throughout the United States. They put a guy like David Brooks on, and this flake, that's their Republican. You know, they find some cornball. You know, and I don't know why the Congress, the Freedom Caucus Congress, is not pushing this. I mean, it's total propaganda. You said at one time, I think, with John on or I, about how this is almost like a total propaganda machine of the Soviet era, how it's working against the President of the United States, and it's all embedded people.
Exactly. It still is.
You said it about the Muslim Brotherhood. You said it's an ideology. There's no religion there. It's a total ideology. Look what happened. What happened in Barcelona yesterday? What they forget their draws? What happened?
It's you have to confront it. You have to understand Islam is a totalitarian ideology bent on world domination, masquerading as a religion. Until you understand that, you will not be successful in defeating it.
The Europeans don't look at it, and there's more than just the Democratic Party. There's a lot of Republicans in the Republican Party who believe that we must appease them. It's the John Kerry Korean policy.
Well, appeasement has never worked throughout the course of history. Certainly not when you're dealing with a totalitarian regime.
Do you think, Admiral, that the Europeans are capable of defending themselves anymore, or are they too far gone?
I think there is a core group that wants to defend themselves and protect their culture, preserve their culture. They've given so much to the world over the years. I mean, classical Europe, look what it did.
Oh, absolutely, sir.
You can't dismiss that and let it be succumb to a ideology that has contributed nothing but massacre and evil, really, throughout the world.
Yeah, I really wonder about the Germans, sir. You know, Hitler was able to make so much of Versailles as the stab in the back. I wonder when a German politician is going to stand up and say Merkel has stabbed us in the back.
Well, Merkel has been a disaster from the standpoint of immigration and what she's done to the German culture.
It's unbelievable, sir. It is. I don't like the word evil particularly, but the intent must be evil, because she can't be so stupid to believe that those immigrants are going to become good Germans in the traditional German cultural sense.
Well, their loyalty is to the Quran and Sharia law.
And to the German dole.
So, and to think that somehow you're going to integrate them and they're going to adapt to Western culture and ideas is denying reality.
I think it is, sir. The German government will exist as long as the social welfare, until the social welfare supports a majority or a large number of Muslims in Germany, and then it'll be game over. It's just a mystery to me how people won't defend themselves.
Well, look at Sweden. I mean,
absolutely.
Sweden's going down the tubes the same way. I mean, makes no sense.
No sense at all.
Admiral, what about the Chinese? Rick was just speaking about the Chinese, that they can put the pressure, they can do whatever. What do we have to do to the Chinese?
Well, with the Chinese, we have to take a very strong position. We have to recognize what they're doing. Their actions throughout the Western Pacific and the South China Sea are illegal actions. They've been determined by the court in The Hague that all their claims to the South China Sea and the other areas are illegal and have no historical basis. Now, what we have to do, we've got to build up certain resources in Taiwan. I think it's a democracy which just is an anathema to the Chinese. And, the Chinese goal is to drive us to have total hegemony out to the first island chain, which includes Taiwan, and eventually out to the second island chain, which includes Guam. We have to beef up our forces not only in the Western Pacific, but we have to help increase our allies, particularly Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Australia, the Philippines, and provide them with the wherewithal to ensure their survivability and promote democracy. And of course, one of the things in Japan, which is coming up, it's the 70th anniversary of the peace treaty, and it's Article 9 that needs to be revised in that peace treaty.
What is Article 9?
Yeah.
What is Article 9, Admiral?
It has to do with that they would never use their military forces on any offensive operations again. And certainly in today's environment, the Japanese need to be able to use their military forces for self-defense and to join with us in defensive operations to ensure their survivability and freedom of the seas and preventing any further Chinese encroachment in the area.
Mike?
It's a tall order, sir, these days. It is not that it must be done. I can see that, but I just don't know how to get it done until the president at least squares away his national security shop, if he can.
Well, it starts right here. He has to build his solid team here.
Yeah.
Without that team, it isn't going to happen. And regretfully, school's out. Like you say, you can't kick the can down the road anymore. There's no more road.
No more road. I think that's
so
fair.
So we have to face up to the facts. I mean, what the Obama administration did to our military forces with sequestration and social engineering, which destroyed unit integrity and cohesiveness and the will to win, must be reversed. I've done op-eds on this, and the president is quite right in prohibiting transgenders in the military. It makes absolutely no sense. Dr. Phil McHugh from Johns Hopkins University Hospital correctly has it that transgender is a mental disorder, needs treatment, understanding, and should never be forced on the military. He's exactly on target. And what happened was the leftists infiltrated the American Psychiatric Association, and so they were able to control the voting on what's now normal versus what's abnormal. And therefore, they just outvoted Dr. Phil McHugh and his team of experts, and considering transgenderism as just a normal thing, and we need to just get on with it and accept it.
Yeah.
We got the last 30 seconds. Admiral, the last 30 seconds.
All right. So, really, we have to focus on rebuilding our military forces, restore the moral underpinnings of our military forces, and that means canceling all of the Obama social engineering. We have to do this on an expedited basis, and I guarantee you, once you do that, morale will go sky high, and our readiness factors will also go up.
Admiral Ace Lyons, thank you once again for being on the John Fredericks Show.